Veli from Greenwood here at Wendouree, ground mount system, 1.2 megawatt. That's the DC side, using 565 watt panels. Jinkos, I believe 2123, connected to 9 by 110 sun-grow inverters, cumulative KVA of 990 KVA. So obviously there's a DC AC ratio of about 1.21. For those of you who understand what that means, good. For those of you who don't, what we're talking about is that the DC actually exceeds the AC, which is common on many of these larger systems. Now, you may notice this signage here, warning PV string disconnection point, and also warning load must be isolated and circuits must be tested for the absence of current before unplugging. These have all been positioned on each one of these tables, and I'll explain what a table is later on the east side. So there's this continuity across the whole site. Now, let's get back to the table. A table in this situation is an array of 36 panels. We've got 18 at the top, and then we've got 18 at the bottom, and that constitutes a table. And that is separated from the next table. So in this situation, we've got a 3-table configuration. So we're talking about 3 lots of 36 panels, so 3 by 36. 18 at the top, 18 at the bottom. That's table 1. Table 2, 18 at the top, 18 at the bottom. And this is consistent throughout the whole project. Now, you may see here the cables labelled. So that is the actual panel cables, and then they connect to the cables there that go off to the inverter. So what Joel has done in the design is he's actually said, well, let's actually put a twin cable right down the end and connect that last panel and bring that leg all the way back for this 18 panel array, and then do the same for the next, which is a very smart way of doing things. Now, the DC cable on this particular site is all 6 mil, and they've done that for consistency, even though some of the runs may be a little bit, well, some of the runs are definitely shorter and could possibly use 4 mil DC, 4 mil squared cable. The DC volt drop shall not exceed 5%, but best practices, in other words, you're looking at about 2%. And on this particular project, we've aimed for that 2% volt drop. Because obviously at the end of the day, all the energy that's gathered in by the panels, you really don't want to dissipate too much of that due to badly sized DC cable, because the volt drop will actually influence how much energy actually gets to the inverters. The piles themselves are hot dip gal C channel, I believe, and they have been positioned, they haven't just been rammed in, they've actually been positioned, and then a slurry of a sand that has had a concrete added to it. So effectively, they've cored out the holes for where the piles go. So these piles just haven't been, bashed in, for want of a better expression. They haven't been pile driven in. They've actually been excavated, and then into the holes they've poured a slurry of a sand that has a very low percentage of concrete. So it's not, the MPA on those cored holes would be pretty low, I'd say. We've got the same configuration, the same signage as we did with the lower string of 18. Exactly, so it's all the same throughout the whole project. Now if we walk around here a little bit, I'd like to draw your attention to this pile in the stabilised sand, and I'll just come down here and have a look at this sand. So the sand's quite, you might be able to see, I can actually scratch that with a stick. So there, so it's certainly not like concrete, but it's certainly not like sand. So it's sort of almost got the consistency of packed sand, but a bit more robust. Now, in this situation here, we haven't finished off securing the cables correctly. So at the end, you basically won't see the cables at my height, which is like 5'7.5". Yeah, I added the half. So this has to be finished off here. Now notice also here the cable bending radius. A lot of players, a lot of installers will make a mistake and go, oh, I want to tuck that right in, bring this clip down and decreasing that bending radius. It's really important to ensure that you do not exceed the manufacturer's guidelines when it comes to bending radiuses of any cable, and especially when it comes to multi-strand. Now, the rest is really neat, and notice the connections are tucked in nicely here. They're not sitting between the two panels at all. Also, notice that lovely sweeping bend there. This is some of the neatest work I've seen in a long time. It's really good. It's a testament to the installers. Now, if we move across a little bit here, and you may be able to see, so here's the conduit, and that conduit's going down into a trench, and it's going off to the inverter. This hasn't been finished off. Obviously, these have to be poked in here. The cory has to go in there. This has to be changed to a steel cable tie. That has to be brought down. This has to be brought down. Okay, so it's not touching. And finally, this here will be capped, both for practical and mechanical protection reasons, and also from an aesthetic perspective. Now, the array is at 20 degrees, all of them, 20 degrees, and it's a fixed array facing true north. As I mentioned, 565 watt panels, they're pretty sizable. I believe they're about 2,124 millimeters long, something like that. I'll have to check the data sheet, key looking at the data sheet. They're a little over 1 metre wide, fairly light for about 35 mil thick, probably weighing around about 25, 26 kilos, I'd say, something along those lines. Now, the speed at which these went up was quite incredible. And that's the thing with ground mount. It really is, it's all about creating a good base initially. And if you get that all right, then the rest of the panel mounting is fairly easy. Now, unlike roof mount systems, there's a heck of a lot of construction that goes on. We're talking about heavy machinery, pile drivers, cranes, the whole kit and caboodle. So that construction electrical ratio is more construction than electrical in a lot of cases. Don't get me wrong, there's a heck of a lot of DC cable involved in this particular project, and also a lot of AC cable. Now, where does all the DC cable go? Well, obviously it goes back to the section where the inverter and transformer skid is going to actually finally be positioned. There's strip footings, and that's coming really, really soon. And then it's off to the RMU, which is a ring main unit. So we're right in the spot where all the action is going to happen. When I say action, I mean the AC action. So this is where the inverter transformer skid is finally going to be deposited. Now it's two pieces. The first section is for the actual transformer, that's 3 meters long. And then the next section for the inverters is approximately 9 meters long. Now, this big cable here, this is the HV cable, 22 kV, right? It is 50 mil square 3 core. Now this has a lot of insulation, and if we look over here, this is one of the cores, and I'll pick this up. You can sort of see, there's what it looks like. Now this is covered with a metal sheathing, and there's various other bits of insulation type material, and then it all goes inside something like this. So it goes into there, and that's the result. And so that goes off to the RMU, the ring main unit. So inverters, transformer, RMU. Now you can see the strip footings here. These have been positioned, and they've all been fully tested to support the weight of the inverter skid. They're approximately, they look about 300 mil approximately wide, and I'm not sure how deep they go. There's one additional one, and that takes into consideration the excessive weight of the transformer in this particular area. So to my right here, you can see some DC cable coming out of some heavy duty conduit, 80 mil. And that is obviously from all those tables. And remember, there's 59 tables, and each table consists of 18 panels at the top and 18 panels at the bottom. It's this site is very consistent in a lot of areas. It's great. Now, if you look to my left, and if you look at that orange conduit over there, and that looks to be 50 mil conduit, you'll see some copper cable, and that is for the earthing. So there's some, and that hasn't been bonded yet. And at the opposite end, there's another conduit with the appropriate copper cable for earthing. Now, if we swing around here a little bit, you'll see that there is 3 70 mil earth cables. Right? One of them's come from the array, but the other 2 are involved in this earth ring that effectively surrounds, for want of a better word, surrounds the inverter transformer skid. So there's an earthing ring, and there's lots of different methods of earthing, but obviously it follows the particular Australian and international standards that are required for this particular project. Very, very soon we're going to see this gigantic inverter transformer skid positioned, craned into position, and positioned on these strip footings, and then all the connections made, and that'll be a pretty exciting time. So just imagine you're going to see a large transformer here, and then you're going to see this inverter station with 9 110 kVA sun-grown inverters. It's going to have a roof, it's going to be fairly weatherproof, even though the inverters have a pretty good IP rating. Yeah, it's a pretty exciting, and it's great actually to be on site again with a ground mount system.